Meet the EVELO Galaxy Lux. It may be one of the lowest maintenance e-bikes that I've been able to test all year long. And you can attribute that to some of the cool features and premium tech that it's packed with, like it has a 600 watt mid-drive motor, a Gates carbon belt drive, and an Enviolo CVT automatic transmission, meaning no shifter up top, no thinking about switching gears, just pedal and go where you want, and the bike really does the rest. So let's do a deep dive on all the features and spec of this EVELO Galaxy Lux. All right, so let's talk about just the basics. This is the EVELO Galaxy Lux, and it's priced at $37.99. Now, this bike is advertised as weighing about 52 pounds with the battery. They say 45 without the battery, but I put this one up on a scale when I got it, just the way you see it here. So with fenders, racks, all the accessories on it, and it came to be about 57 pounds. Now, that's just slightly over what they estimate, which is fairly common depending on the brand and the bike and how they take their measurements, whether they included or didn't include things like fenders and racks when they took that measurement. But all in all, just the way you see it right here was 57 pounds. So not super heavy in terms of e-bikes go, where often we see 70, 80, 90, sometimes even north of 100 pounds. Also, being under 60 pounds, this will work with a lot of bike racks. Just make sure you check your bike rack's weight management or weight max payloads that it can handle. Now, this comes in one color and one frame size. The color you see here is kind of this matte eggshell finish blue color with black accents. There's no other color options available, and it fits riders, what they say is from 4'10 up to 5'10. Now, I'm 5'11, so I'm right outside of that range, but of course, I still took it for a spin, rode it quite a bit during my testing. And I will say at 5'11, it did feel a little bit small underneath me. I pretty much have the seat post max out, and I couldn't raise the handlebars any higher. So I would say stick to that height range. Sometimes you can get away with going a little bit over that range, but in this case, I truly feel like 4'10 to 5'10 is probably a really solid range. And if you're over 6 foot, this is probably not going to be the bike for you to be picking. Now, in terms of just some numbers for this frame, so obviously we have a nice step-through alloy frame here. It's a low standover height at just 15 inches for your step over of the frame of the lowest point. Your wheelbase from front to rear hub or vice versa is about 42.5 inches. We have around 9 inches of adjustability in the seat post, and then you have a 23-inch reach up top, which of course can be slightly adjusted if you loosen those stem bolts and just kind of rotate that handlebar back or forward. You can kind of play with that reach to see what works for you, but it does not go any higher than you currently see it. Now, in terms of max payload, that meaning the maximum amount of weight you can put on this bike, including the rider and gear, is 350 pounds, so a pretty hefty payload there as well. And when it comes to wheels and tires, we do have a 24-inch alloy wheel that's wrapped in a 24 by 2.4 CST Cyclops tire that's got a nice commuter tread pattern. They're actually very quiet tires. They roll very smooth. No off-road tread, but looking at this bike, you can probably tell this is not really an off-road bike. This is a get-around town bike, ride bike paths, city streets, things like that, and it really does shine in those areas. Now, in terms of extras, so the bike does ship with this rear rack because it's required to house this battery, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. And it also comes with front to back fenders. They are composite fenders, plastic fenders. And then you also get front to back lighting. So you get an LED up front headlight that you can adjust the angle and a fixed taillight in the battery. So when the battery is out, there's no light. When the battery is in, the battery is kind of part of this molded taillight here. Now, outside of that, there's no braking highlight feature or turn signals, which at $3,700, I'd like to see those included, but nonetheless, you do have front-to-back lighting, adjustable angle LED headlights, and basically everything else you would need. You can hold about 50 pounds on the rear rack. You have the battery integrated, front-to-back fenders, and lighting. Pretty solid setup. Now, if you also look, we have a mounting point for a water bottle cage or some sort of accessory tool if you wanted to put it there. A lot of bike locks have mounts that fit on those water bottle cage mounts. Either way, you do have some options there, and you have the rear rack to load up extra gear. So nice setup for everyday commuting and practical errand running, and overall, nicely equipped. And as we get into the motor, battery, and components section, you'll really see all of this start to shine as far as components go. So when it comes to things like motor and battery, this is where things start to really kind of present themselves with the premium features. So starting with the motor, we have a Bafang mid-drive motor that's nominally rated at 600 watts, but it can peak it up to 980 watts. And it puts out up to 105 Newton meters of torque. And as you can guess, on a bike kind of on the lighter end, smaller end. That's a pretty substantial amount of power, so the bike has no problem getting up and getting around without any issues. Now, as far as pedal assist, you can choose between 4 or 6 levels in the display, and I'll show you how that works in just a minute. I usually like to keep it at 4, and that's because this is a Class 2 e-bike, meaning it's capped at 20 miles an hour, and I certainly don't need 6 levels to adjust to within 20 miles an hour. It's just too small of a range, in my opinion. But on top of that, you can also use the unlock feature. They call it an unlock feature, but basically they have the ability to go past 20 miles an hour. But I don't say to Class 3 speeds because I was never able to achieve that. And they don't advertise that, in fairness. They don't say you can get 28 miles an hour. They just say you can unlock it for higher speeds if you need to. And so I did unlock it, change it to unlimited in the display, and I was able to get about 23 miles an hour, maybe a little bit more, but never 25, 28. So not full on 28 miles an hour, but you can creep up to about 23, at least for me at 180 pounds. That's what I got out of it. Now, in terms of sensors, it's a mid-drive, so you have both a cadence and torque sensor that work together to kind of create that nice natural pedal assistance. And this bike does have a nice natural pedal assistance. And the motor is actually really quiet, not overly loud, and the bike itself is just really, really smooth when riding. Now, you do have a throttle up top. You can use the throttle as well. And all in all, the speed on this feels fitting for the bike. It's not a moto-style bike. It's not an off-road bike. It just needs to get you around on paved surfaces around town, and that's where a setup like this just feels really confident and really strong. Now, in terms of the battery, we have a 48-volt battery here. It's rated at 11.6 amp hours, giving us 557 watt hours total to use. Now, in terms of range, they say this bike will get up to 55 miles, and they clarify 55 miles using pedal assist and 25 miles using throttle only. So I did 2 tests. I did one on eco mode and I got 48 miles, and then I did another on boost mode, so the highest level of pedal assist. I didn't use strictly throttle, and on that one I still got 30 miles. So really between 30 and 50 feels like a nice average that you can expect to get out of this, depending on how you ride it and how aggressive you are with the pedal assist or the throttle usage. But remember, they say if you use only throttle, you can expect it to be lower, around that 25-mile mark of range, as they advertise. Now, in terms of the warranty, that's probably one of the best features about this bike. It's got a 4-year, 20,000-mile warranty. I mean, we're getting up there now with like car warranties, which is really cool. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe it's one of the best, if not the best, warranties in e-bikes right now. 4 years, 20,000 miles is a very solid warranty. And I think that should give you peace of mind when you're spending a little bit more money on a more nice bike like you are here. Now, in terms of the battery itself, you could just remove this with a set of keys. You put the keys in, you turn them, and it'll just slide right out. I'm not going to pull it all the way out because it's pretty simple how it works. So you can secure it when you're in town and you want to make sure it's locked onto the bike, and you can also take it off to take it inside for charging or storage, things like that, wintertime storage. So it's nice to have that flexibility. And then they do offer an additional battery extension pack or an extra battery, a larger battery capacity pack, and that will take this range up to over 100 miles. So really, if you want to just really push it out and kit this out, you can do so to get up to what they say is just over 100 miles of range, which is a really nice setup as well. All right, so let's talk about components, arguably one of the coolest areas of the Galaxy Lux. So I'll start back here with this odd looking unit. You normally would see a rear derailleur back here with cogs on it and pulleys where people can shift through their chain as it travels through, but we don't have any of that here, and that's because this is using the Enviolo CVT, or continuously variable transmission, meaning as you're riding the bike, it's constantly figuring out what gear to put you in, just like your automatic transmission vehicle at your house right now. You never think about what gear you're in. You're not driving a manual, or at least most people aren't these days. So if you're driving an automatic car, you don't think about what gear you're in. You just go, and the car figures it out, and that's exactly what this bike does. Now, there's a couple perks of that. One, it's one less thing for you to think about when you're riding a bike. Now, two, there's no maintenance on this, or very, very little maintenance on this that you won't have to do yourself. It's something that basically handles everything on its own, and you're never going to be stuck with chain grease and derailleur gunk getting built up on it. It's just an always clean, easy to use system that requires almost no effort on the owner's part. And then that's even further exasperated when you talk about the Gates carbon belt drive here. So no metal chain, no rollers getting worn out, no pulleys getting worn out, no chain grease. This is a very clean system that should operate on its own for upwards of 15,000 miles before it ever needs any kind of servicing at all, which is really, really impressive. Now, on top of that, we have a 55-tooth chainring in the front with a 25-tooth cog in the rear. Then there's a little internal servo motor that will kind of adjust those gears as you go, but you don't have to do anything. Now the cranks are 155 millimeter cranks and they are alloys. And then the pedals are a 9/16 flat alloy pedal with reflectors and some traction studs on them. So a really nice kind of drivetrain setup on here that is very low maintenance, low thought process as an owner. Just one of those bikes you can ride and enjoy. Now, braking is also a beefed up area. We have Tektros, but we usually see Tektros that are on the entry level side. These are bumped up a little bit to more of a mid-tier Tektro, and they are the Tektro Ariguas, which have 180 millimeter rotors up front, 160 millimeter rotors in the rear. We have 2 piston calipers on both front and rear wheels, and then we have the Tektro Arigua levers up top that have adjustable reaches, so you can kind of change that reach based on your hand length. But all in all, premium parts, premium components, and very low maintenance all around. So that's obviously going to be a plus for a lot of folks. Now let's go up and talk about this saddle. So Selle Royale makes a ton of saddles in the bike industry, everything from high-end performance saddles to these consumer branded saddles like we have here. And this is a Royal Gel by Selle Royale, and it's the Springer saddle, which you can see the springs on the bottom for some extra cushion. And then you have this nice tan leather look, almost like an old school look with the buttoned leather look. Now, if I'm being completely honest, when I look at the whole bike and see one tan leather piece, I'd like to see maybe some brown accents on either the grips or maybe some tan sidewalls on the tires to kind of accent it better, but we're really getting into the weeds with styling. But at the end of the day, this is a comfortable saddle. It's made by a really reputable company, and I think this is going to serve a lot of people really well. The good news is, if you don't like it, these are easy and inexpensive to swap for something you do like better. Now up front, we have the handlebar, and as you can see, no suspension anywhere on the bike, a completely rigid frame. Now the frame itself is aluminum alloy, or 6061 aluminum alloy, but the fork here is a 4130 chromoly steel fork, so you have a more rigid front end that also has a little bit more vibration dampening than alloy does or aluminum does. So kind of cool to see them bring back the steel front fork. And then moving up here, we have the handlebars, kind of a pretty typical cruiser style or Dutch city cruiser style, something that gives you an upright riding position. You're not leaned forward on the bike. You're kind of always upright, comfortable, and just kind of cruising. The whole theme of the bike kind of fits that look. Now this is 700 millimeters wide. It has a 38-degree sweep up and 38-degree sweep backwards, which give you that nice comfortable hand placement, letting you sit up straight rather than reaching forward for anything. And then the center of the diameter bar here is 31.8 millimeters for the stem. Now on this bar, we have ergonomic platform grips that lock on both sides so they don't rotate or kind of come off over time. You have a push throttle on the left side. You also have your Tektro brake levers. You have your PAS control buttons here. And as you can see, no shifter, because again, this bike does the shifting for you. There's really nothing for you to think about. You just pedal and go. And whether you come to a stop and it downshifts for you, or you're about to be at a hill and it adjusts shifting then, or going downhill, it just figures it out all for you, and it doesn't junk up your handlebar with any kind of shift levers because it's all just automatic. Now on the front end, we have all the wiring coming off and going into the tube with some management ties here just to kind of keep things a little bit orderly. And then in the center, we have our color Bafang display. Now below that, we have a stem. It's kind of got a high rise to it. That kind of keeps the ride comfortable, but there's no adjustability, like I said. So if you are taller and you want these handlebars to come up a little bit, you'll need to look at some sort of stem that can come up. I'd like to see them do an adjustable stem in the future, but all in all, the bike rides really comfortably and easy. But let's take a closer look at this Bafang display and talk about how it all integrates and what you can change and what you can't change regarding the motor and the bike itself. All right, so this is the Bafang color display that obviously comes as a part of this mid-drive motor that comes on the bike. As you can see, it's got a nice full color display. The colors will kind of change as we go through pedal assist levels here. And there's also some other profiles and themes you can look at. This is just one of the themes. I'll show you the other ones here when we go into the settings. Now you can't really see it, but down below here is a USB port for charging devices as you go, with a little weatherproof door to cover that port when you're not using it. And as far as the layout goes, this one has the time up top in the center. We have our speed that goes around as we ride the bike, and our speed will populate in miles per hour here in the center, which we can change to kilometers per hour. And I'll show you how that works here in just a second. Now it says off because the bike is on, but the pedal assistance is off. So as you can see, I go up on the control buttons and you can see it changes. Right now it's set to the 4-mile setting, or excuse me, the 4 pedal assist setting. So we have off, comfort, tour plus, and boost. And then if you go all the way down, you can go to that little walking symbol. If I was to hold the down arrow, the bike would walk at around 3 miles an hour, or a pace that's just easy to keep up with, so you don't have to pull the bike or push the bike. You can just walk with it in the event that you need to move it without riding it. Now below that, we've got our battery percentage and a visual bar, and we've got our trip meter at about 116 miles. And if I tap the power button, not hold it, but just tap, we will get some other data at the bottom, like our odometer's at 116. Max speed's been 31.8 miles an hour. Average speed's been about 12.6. And range is currently showing nothing because the pedal assistance is off. But if I tap that up, you can see it'll say we currently have 26 miles of range, but that is not accurate. Even with 84% at eco mode, I'm sure we could get over 26 miles. But that will get lower as I go up in Tour Plus, and then finally at boost mode. Now, that's all the settings on the screen itself. If we want to see more, there are a couple more data screens here. So we got cadence, which will show your RPMs with the pedals real time. And then time on the bike, 551 minutes. And then we're back to the trip meter. Now, to get into the advanced settings, you're just going to hold the up and down buttons, and that'll take you to this screen. Now, this has some super quick basics. So up top, you've got your percentage of the brightness level. So right now it's at 100% brightness level. If you go down, you can change how long it takes for the bike to auto off. But if you want to change that, you simply tap the power button. Then you can make adjustments with the levers as you go. You can go as high as 10 minutes, it looks like, or 9, and then as low as off. So I'll just leave that in the middle at 5 minutes. We'll tap power again to confirm it. Now we can change between a 24-hour clock or a 12-hour clock. So for those of you who like military time, you can do that. And if you don't, you simply change it back to 12 o'clock. Here you have your time of day. It's currently set at 3:22, but if you want to adjust it, that's an easy thing to do as well. And then here's where I talked about the theme. So right now, remember our display has that round center. I'll kind of back out and show it to you. So that is that theme we have now. But if you want to change it, there's a couple other options we have. So this first one, we'll do that one first. Back out and show you that. And now you have this style of theme, which of course just has different little animations and colors as you go. Hold that again. And then finally, the third theme is this one right here. And so I will show you how that one looks. And there you go. So just a different layout for each style, and that's going to be personal preference. None of these change the features of the bike, just how you look at the data on the screen. That's really it. So we'll go back into the menus here, go past everything we've been through already. Now here's where you can change between 4 modes of pedal assist and 6 modes. Right there, you can change it to 6. I'll put it back to 4. And then you can go to trip reset, which we don't need to do. Now other takes you to a whole new section of menus. So these are the quick, just basics to grab for as far as daily functionality. But if you want to get into tweaking settings and other metrics, this is where you go to other. And you can see we have 5 tabs up top, and each tab will give us a different set of menus to go into. So I'll start at the beginning. We have HMI settings. So if we go down to trip reset, that's another area to reset the trip meter. Here you can change between miles per hour and kilometers per hour. It's a really easy switch, as you can see. Service tips will give you reminders of service intervals. If you want them, we have that set to off. This is going to be assistance sensitivity, which I do not mess with unless I'm directed to. You can set a boot password, so strangers who may get on your bike in an urban area or a downtown area won't just be able to turn it on and pedal away. They'll need to know the PIN code. And you can reset that here as well. But let's go back up to the top menu, go to the next screen. And here we have things like wheel size we can change if we were to change the wheels. The speed limit, as you can see, it's at 19.9, but if I go and change that to a 0 and then hit enter, you'll see as it says waiting, and then it'll back out and say, I think it's unlimited. Yeah, unlimited. So that is kind of allowing it to go past that 20 miles an hour. Now, if you want to go to see the controller info, you can select that and you get the basics of the controller. HMI info, same thing. Warning codes, if we had any, they'd be in here. And error codes, if we had any, they'd be in here as well. So we'll go back up top. To get to these top tabs, you just hit the return button. So the next one's going to be language. You've got a few languages to pick from there, more so than normal, which is kind of cool. And then the theme, this is just another area to pick the 3 screen profiles that I already showed you. They happen to call them sports, fashion, and technology. It's basically just those 3 different layouts. So we'll go up to return there. And here we have the final one, which is going to be riding parameters. So you can see your speed limit in percentages and current limit percentages. You can set parameters to keep that within a certain limit by percentages. I don't mess with any of that unless I was really trying to get in there and just see what I could get it to do, but I'm not going to be doing that for the short time that I have the bike. Same thing with the speed limit. You can go in there and see how you can adjust how much speed you're going to get at each level of pedal assist if you wanted to throttle it, but I don't have any set, as you can see. So we'll back out of there, and that's got everything that you can kind of adjust on here. Plus there's no app on this bike. So to back out, we're just going to hold the plus and minus, and we're back to one of those kind of theme profiles on the home page. Now next, let me show you how you pair your app to the Enviolo automatic transmission. Now you don't need to do this while you're riding. You can, but you don't need to. So I'll just show you what you can do with the app, because it does matter as far as updating firmware and things like that. All right, so I'm going to pair my phone to the Enviolo CVT kind of hub here. Now again, you don't have to do this to ride the bike. This is simply something you can do when you want to adjust it, update it, tweak the settings, things like that. So I'm going to just open the Enviolo app, which is available in both app stores regardless of Android or iOS. And then it shows up a connection screen. That's the first screen you'll get. Now to connect, I want to hold this little white button on the unit for a few seconds until the lights start changing colors. I can now see it flashing. There we go. So now I'll hit connect. It'll say getting device info and connecting. Okay, so we are connected here, and as you can see, you have quite a few options. Now, in full disclosure, you could mount this up on your handlebar, and you can choose when the bike shifts if you want to do that by hitting the buttons. However, I don't do that. I like the automatic transmission aspect to it, but you do have that feature if you want to. Now, up top, we have our operational mode. Again, you can do it automatically, or you can do manual shifting like I just discussed. You can start after stop. What you can do is pick what kind of gear you want to be in when you stop the bike. So say you're out riding, you come to a red light, you're stopped. You don't know what gear it's going to be in because it's an automatic transmission. And what I like to do is set it to it's going to be a little bit lower, and that allows me to have an easy gear to pedal when I start riding again. But if you want a heavier gear, you can slide that up and do a heavier gear as well. Now here you can hit update firmware, and it says it already has the latest firmware version, so there's nothing for me to select here, but I do love having that because that means as they figure out ways to make this better or fix problems, it can be directly submitted to your phone and done on the bike automatically without you ever spending $1 or any time in a local bike shop. Now you can scan a QR code if you want to calibrate it that way, but we did it through the little pairing mode. You have the calibrate feature, which will tell you to kind of start rotating the pedals, and it'll figure out all that on the back end. I'm not going to do that while we're sitting here, but you can calibrate it really easily. And then configuration lookup says it should be only being used if automatic unit is replaced. And in this case, we're not replacing it. We have no issues with it, so we're not going to mess with that either. Now here you can go into info, and this will have all the information about your unit. This may be helpful when you're talking to service, but for the most part, you really won't need to deal with this much at all. Now here you can go into preferences, but I've never set up a profile, so it always just says connecting for me here. So I'm going to back out. But other than that, it's really up to you between auto and manual. And once you start riding the bike, if you have any problems with shifting, you can go into this app, recalibrate it, and it should be riding for you without any issues. Pretty solid little app. And again, you don't need to use this whatsoever unless you want to, or kind of update it, things like that. All right, so we're out here on the EVELO Galaxy Lux. And the more I ride this bike, the more I feel like I just refer to it as the bike you ride when you don't want to think about riding a bike, because you're never thinking about shifting, you're never thinking about your gearing, you're never thinking about any kind of mystery noise or rattles because of this basically silent operation. The motor's super quiet, tires make no noise, there's no chain or derailleur slapping around, so it's just a super smooth, quiet bike that does most of the thinking for you. Now, as far as how that translates, it's going to be probably up to the individual on what they think of how this bike rides, because for some people who don't want to think a lot about it, they're going to really enjoy it. And for other people who want more control, want to go fast all the time, may not be their cup of tea. So let's start with the basics. How fast can we get it to go? I've already turned off the speed limiter to unlimited, but just fair warning, I've never gotten it above 22 miles an hour. So 3, 2, 1, I'll just do full throttle here. Bump it up to boost. We're at 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, 18 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, And so yeah, although it's unlocked or unlimited, it seems to hover around that 21, 22 at best. Right there we were holding 20 miles an hour. The next one I'm gonna start from a standstill at the base of this little hill so you guys can see how this automatic shifting works. It's really kind of cool. Although personally, as someone who obsesses over the gear I'm in all the time when I'm riding, I'm usually riding for time and things like that, I care a lot about my gearing. So for me, I find myself thinking about what gear I'm going to next, but you can't change that here because it's gonna just do it for you. It's like wishing your automatic car was a manual. You can wish it all day, but it's gonna just shift for you wherever you want it, or wherever it wants to. Well, let's start here at the base of this little hill and see if it shifts down correctly for me from a stop to get up this hill. I'm gonna bump it down to sport mode, or tour mode, excuse me, sport. All right, so I don't hear any downshifting at the stop, so I'll just start from dead stop. Well, feels fine actually. Now I was expecting a little downshift there, but we didn't get one, although it never got too hard. It just feels very fluid. It doesn't feel like, I mean, honestly, it's a lot like your vehicle's automatic transmission. It's just gonna be in the right gear when you want to go. And instead of hitting the gas, your legs are gonna start moving. Because I didn't feel any gear changes there, but I didn't really feel like I needed any either. We'll go up a longer hill in this neighborhood and see how it behaves, or if it changes at all. I haven't heard a single shift yet. But I'm also going 10 miles an hour. So when we get in the neighborhood, I'll go left up this like quarter-mile short incline, and we'll see how it decides to participate there. All right, we're clear. So let's just go up this hill. I'm gonna listen for any shifts. I don't hear any shifting, but it doesn't feel hard either. Now, if I pick up my pedaling pace, will we accelerate up the hill? And we do, so we're going up to 14, 15. I don't see myself getting much over 15 miles an hour here, even if I pedal really fast. There we go, 19, 20, but I was pedaling my legs pretty fast there. It's a really nice cruising bike. You know, the whole look of it, the city cruiser, Dutch bars. You get on it, relaxed, kind of carefree riding. You don't worry about speed, time, efficiency. You just want to get on the bike and have a nice ride. And that's kind of what this delivers. So now we're going uphill, like uphill, and we have not had any gear changes that I've heard. I heard one earlier on my ride, but not now. Yeah, no gear changes at all. Oh, there we go, had a little shift there. I'm changing my speed of my legs and how I'm pedaling just to see when it picks up when to shift gears. It's hard to tell what logic it's using. It's most likely some sort of combination of torque and cadence speed. The thing is, I don't really need to shift. I'm kind of just looking for it for you guys to hear it or see it on camera. But it always just feels like it's in a good gear. A lot of that's from the gearing, and a lot of that's being made up for a pedal assist too. So I don't know how many gears you would actually need, but this one's just kind of always ready. The brakes are a little noisy. Let's get going down this hill at 20 miles an hour and then do a quick stop. So there we are at 19. Get going a little bit faster. All right, 21 miles an hour. I'm gonna stop in 3, 2, 1. So the brakes are really strong. I think they just have a lot of venting on those rotors because you can hear them spin through the calipers. It's not scratching, it's just that kind of air gap passing as all those little spots on the rotor go past the caliper. But again, when I start pedaling, I'm in a good gear. And you have the throttle on here, so you don't have to pedal if you don't want to. Like, I can just hold the throttle right now. And we're just cruising. No pedaling at all. It's very smooth. I know I've said that already, but it's a very, very smooth bike. I would say smooth and easy to find this bike. You don't need to know a lot about biking. You don't need to know a lot about how you want your ride to go. You just need to know that you want to get somewhere and the weather's nice and this is going to do it. So I think a lot of people will appreciate that. And like I said, there's some people that won't. And so I think it's good to do these rides and talk about these things. You do have the removable battery on the back that also comes under that rear rack mount. So you can have your gear on the rear rack. It did come with a water bottle cage. So we've got that in place. And with the ergonomic kind of platform lock-on rubber grips here and the swept back bars, sure, I'm out of the fit range for this bike. I'm about 1.5 inches outside of it. So the bike feels a little small for me, but if you're in that 410 to 510 range, I think this bike's gonna be very comfortable, very smooth, and again, just very easy ride. The kind of bike somebody can get on. They don't care about biking or cycling. They care about just getting down the street and feeling good. And that's what this bike delivers. Plus, you've got a little bit of pep if you need it. Getting up to 20 miles an hour is not hard. It's just not gonna be pushing 28 or 30 or anything like that. We'll see how fast we can go. We'll get aero and everything. And I don't think we're getting up over 21. I saw 22 at best. So now I'm starting to pedal. It's kind of geared a little bit too low right there. So let's go back and put this on a mechanic stand and talk about this from an ownership standpoint. Maybe some things you should know before you buy one, or things that aren't obvious for you when you're shopping for one on the website. All right, so let's talk about the EVELO Galaxy Lux from more of an ownership standpoint and less of a kind of spec review standpoint. Let's talk about the things that matter, the things you may not see that are very obvious when you're looking at it, and you get it home and find out the hard way. We want to try to avoid that and point out any kind of just things that may not be on your radar that maybe should be on your radar when you're about to make a big purchase decision. So I'll start with the good and the not so good, but I'm gonna have to be frank, there's not a lot of bad going on here. It's just some kind of FYI type stuff. Obviously, I like the kind of commuter tires they have on here. I like not having a rear hub motor. I like having the central mid-drive motor. I like the use of plastic fenders, which sounds counterintuitive to a lot of people, but as someone who messes with bikes a lot, metal fenders tend to bend, rattle, rust, all sorts of things can go wrong with metal fenders. Plastic ones just kind of take a beating and keep on going, and I always prefer that. They're lighter, probably cheaper, and just easier to live with. You do have a QR or a quick release up front to get that front tire off to change a flat, which is really nice to have. It's quick and it's easy, much like a through axle. And all in all, the things I would just really like to see improved or at least put on your radar. First things first, I already brought it up, but that would be the stem. I'd like to see an adjustable stem because that will allow more people to find a more comfortable fit based on their torso and arm length. But as I said, at 5'11", when this maxes out at 5'10", I still felt it was pretty comfortable even for me, although it just felt a little small. But then the biggest thing I would just keep on your radar would be the CVT transmission. Now, I love the CVT transmission. It makes life easy when you're riding it. There's no problems with having it. I would just caution owners and say, if you're the type of person that say you get a flat tire on the road, you have all your gear with you, you know how to fix it, you're ready to go, you can pull a tire off, pop in a new tube or put in a patch, whatever it is you do, you can do so quickly. I would say on this bike, it's going to be more of a chore than you realize, probably because of this CVT automatic transmission. It's got this hardware attached here. It's got the belt drive attached to it. And all of this will need to kind of come out and off for you to get that whole wheel assembly out to put on a new tube or a tire. So what I would recommend doing is if you own this, put in some sort of beefed up armor, like a Tannis armor insert or some sort of slime maybe, or even go tubeless if you can, so you could pop in bacon strips and plugs like you do on a car's flat tire. That way you don't have to rely on pulling the whole tire off, and you could just set it up and beef it up to handle punctures from day one. But on the good side, these tires already come with some puncture protection. This is more of an extreme situation where I don't want you to think you'll be able to just change it on the side of the road where in reality, it's one of those things you'll probably have to limp home and take it to a bike shop or put it up on your stand at home and really dig into it to get that tire fixed, just because of all the things we have going on here in the rear hub, which, before you let that sway you away, remember even most e-bikes with rear hub motors have the same problem. Just when you have a mid-drive motor, that goes away, but we do have the CVT here, so it's something to keep in mind. But all in all, it's a really well put together bike, easy to ride, super smooth, and really that's all I could find on it to just caution you guys about. All right, guys, there you have it, the EVELO Galaxy Lux, a pretty cool commuter bike that's got some very premium features that I think a lot of people are going to like, especially folks who don't want to think about rear derailleurs and when to shift and how to shift and the mess that comes with a metallic chain. This is just a bike you could get on, it goes, it's smooth, it's darn near silent, and it's just comfortable and cozy to ride, even for me who doesn't even fit it technically at 5'11". That range from 4'10" to 5'10" is going to be the range of rider heights. I fell outside of that, but I still found it to be comfortable and enjoyable to ride. Now, is it perfect? No, but no bike is, as I always say. I'd like to see more color options than just the blue. While I like it, some of you may not at home, and just having a couple more options to spread out the choices might go a long way in sales. And then having only one frame size from 4'10" to 5'10" is a good chunk of most of the population, but if you fall outside of that, it kind of leaves you hung out to dry. However, if you're in that 4'10" to 5'10" range and you want a comfy, no fuss, easy to ride, commuter style e-bike, and you're willing to pay a little bit more for these nicer features, well, then the EVELO Galaxy Lux should definitely be on your list to take a look at. Now, if I didn't answer something you want to know about it, drop a comment down below and I'll get that information to you personally so you have that and you can make the best decision you can. And until the next review comes out, guys, I'll see you out on the trail.